We are on Kuf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph, and we're starting on the last line, Siv Katan Tez Vav. Okay. The Mechaber says, Matzilim Tik HaSefer Im HaSefer. We said that you're allowed to save Sifrei Kedusha. You're allowed to save the container of the Sefer together with the Sefer. Don't think that you have to, let's say you have a Sefer Torah, don't think that you have to take the Sefer out of the mantle and you can't take the mantle. No, you can take the Sefer with its container. Matzilim Tik HaSefer Im HaSefer, and that's, I think, primarily because the tick of the Sefer is made l'chvaid and l'noi of the Sefer, and it's bottled to the Sefer. So when you take the Sefer, you can take the tick also. The tick ha-tfilin, and the container of the tfilin, im ha-tfilin. You're allowed to take the container of the tfilin with the tfilin. And now comes the chiddush, af al pi sheyesh b'saychad ma'is, even if there's money together in the container, v'hu adin l'shar kisvei HaKodesh, and the same would apply to other kisvei HaKodesh. So you have a container, it has tefillin in it, and there's money in there. You have other svarim, and you have money in a container together with the svarim. You could take out the container with the money and with the svarim. Zakt the Chavetz Chaim. Ois Katan Mem Gimel, af al pi sheyesh, even though there's money, va'afilu l'dei rishayna de b'sif beis. If we go all the way back to Sif Beis, so in Sif Beis, we had a machlokes, we had two opinions. One opinion was that we relax all of the Yisurim of Muktzah, and you're allowed to save money. If we're talking about the people that are not in the house where the fire is, but are the people that are in the neighboring houses, we said that you're allowed, you relax the Yisurim of Muktzah, and you're allowed to save even money. So you don't need the money to be in the container with tefillin. If there's money, you're allowed to save the money outright. So the what?
You were there.
What do you mean you were?
Outside the house that's coming into the
I'm talking about the houses that are next door.
Right.
Those people, they're allowed to save, according to the second opinion over there, the first opinion, they're allowed to save money outright. So the money doesn't have to be in a container with tefillin. So it's bothering the Chavetz Chaim over here. What's the chiddush over here that if there's money with the tefillin, you're allowed to save it, according to the Day Rishayna. But the Mishnah Berurah says there is a chilik. Va'afil l'Day Rishayna, the Sif Beis, even according to the first opinion in Sif Beis, the mater lahatzel ma'is l'chud mitnei adleka, who said that you're allowed to save money alone. It doesn't have to be together with anything else. Gam kein nicha hacha. There still is a chiddush over here in the words on the Mechaber. The kamash balon the mutar lahatzel hamois agav hasefer, because the Mechaber is telling you that you're allowed to save the money if it's in a container together with the sefer. Va'afilu lachatzer she'ena mu'ureves. We're going to see very shortly in Sif Yud Zayin that you're allowed to save Sifrei Kedusha even to a chatzar she'ena mu'ureves. Even if you're taking it out to a chatzar where there is no iruvei chatzeros, so there's an isser of hitzad rabbanon, you're allowed to bring Sifrei Kedusha there. So when we say here that you're allowed to save money agav the sefer, it means that you're allowed to take the money even out to the chatzar she'ena mu'ureves. In Sif Beis, when we said that we relax muktzah and you could save money, you could take the money, but only to a chatzah mu'ureves, not to a chatzah she'ena mu'ureves. Something's bothering you.
Why does he have to say that? He could say what he just asked, that this is mutter even for the people in the house of the dleika.
Oh, so the truth is that most people understand that this is not for the house of the dleika. Most of the places can say that this over here, this halacha, that you're allowed to save the Sifrei Kedusha over here, this is talking about the other houses, not the houses where the fire is. For them, you would have.
It's not allowed to be matzah. How do you call it? The svarim?
You're allowed to be matzil. You're allowed to be matzil svarim.
With tefillin? What?
1 second, right? No, you're allowed to take the Sifrei. One second. Maybe it's not the agav hasefer though. Right, I looked at this. 1 second. Right. One second. No. In Sif Bays for sure. We're talking about the place, the other houses, the neighboring houses. Question is over here, this halacha, if this halacha applies to the house where the fire is, right? If it applies to that house, then the chiddush over here would be. No. So what are you saying? You're saying like this: the mechaber is saying that you're allowed to save the money together with the tefillin. So you want to say that the chiddush is that you're allowed to do that even in the house where the dleika is.
When there's money, even there's money. Yeah.
Why is that a bigger chiddush?
What do you mean? Because you have money and you like to do it.
Yeah, but why? What?
Well, that's a different.
In other words, what you're saying is like this. You're saying it's Sif Bays we're mater muktzah for the houses that are neighboring houses. Over here, we're being mater the mois agav the tefillin, even for the house where the fire is, where we normally do not relax muktzah. Right. So why doesn't he want to say that? Why doesn't he want to say that? You're right. What I thought doesn't really make sense. I thought that this is going on the neighboring houses, but that doesn't make sense.
You can also say it's going agav aseva afilu chotzer she'enim moreva, so you could say maybe it's just going on that component of it.
No, that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. The Mishnah Berurah is saying that component is the chiddush. But his question is a good question. His question is a good question, and I don't have a ready answer. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't have a ready answer for you. I missed the boat on that. You have an excellent point. Okay. The Kamash V'lo the Mutter Lahatal Amoyis Agav HaSefer V'Afil L'Chas Hashena Me'ureves V'lo Yitzrichu L'Na'ara Mimena. You don't have to shake the money out. Dilma Adahachi V'Hachi Nafla Hadleika Ala Sefer Gufa. And the reason we don't make you shake the money out is because we're afraid that if you're going to take the time to separate the money, you might end up burning the sefer. Okay. Says the Mechaber weiter in Sif Tez Zayin, Eminiach Tfilin Ba'arniki Mole Mois. Now this over here, we got to be very careful. We got to read between the lines over here. This is a tricky sif. Eminiach Tfilin Ba'arniki Mole Mois. I'm going to translate this very literally. If you placed tefillin into a purse or into some kind of a pouch that had money in it, Yachal Latzilai Mipnei Adleika Mipnei Aganavim V'Hagazlanim L'Makom Sheyachal Lahatzel Tefillin. If you place tefillin inside a bag together with money, you can now take the tefillin and the money out to the place that you're allowed to take the tefillin. And like I said, we're going to see in Sif Yod Zayin that you're allowed to take the tefillin out to a chotzer she'eina mu'reves.
So that's the answer right here.
Yeah.
Because he's telling you over here that exactly what I said, that you can do it. So the other one has to be a different chiddush.
Could be. So you can take this out to a chotzer she'eina mu'reves. V'yesh misha omer, and there are those that say, Dahainu dafka kishehenicham shamei erev Shabbos, that this is only true if you put the tefillin together with the money on erev Shabbos. Now, the words of the Mechaber over here, the Mechaber is bringing down here a machlokes between the Trumas Hadeshen and the Mordechai. He pulled the Trumas Hadeshen straight from the Tur. These words in the beginning, Iminiach tefillin ba'arniki mali mois, that comes straight from the Trumas Hadeshen, brought down by the Tur. Now, the way the Mechaber understood it, the Mechaber understood that the Baal Truma says, if at any point in time you took the tefillin and you put them into a sack together with money, now you could save the money and you could take the money and the tefillin out to a chotzer she'eina mu'reves. Says the Mechaber, what the Baal Truma seems to be telling me is that I could use a haroma. I could use some kind of a trick over here. It's on Shabbos. A fire started. I have $1,000 cash. I want to save the cash. I can't go ahead for sure, according to the second opinion in Sif Bays, that you're not allowed to handle money. For sure, according to that opinion, I have no right to save the money. So how am I going to save the money? I'm going to take the tefillin, put the tefillin in the bag together with the money into the suitcase. Now I can take the whole suitcase out to a chotzer she'eina mu'reves. That's the way that, what? No. The first opinion here. Emeniach tefillin b'arniki malimois yakal atzilim ne'adleika oimim ne'aganovim v'gazlonim l'makom sheyakal atzal tefillin. Period. That's the Trumas Hadeshin. So
But that's what we just learned before. What's the? I'm not following.
you're not. What's bothering you is that we just said before that you're allowed. Over here, we're not talking about the tefillin in its container. This is not the tefillin in its container. This is you took the tefillin and you put the tefillin into a money bag.
Right.
Before the chiddush was that when you have tefillin in a container, you don't have to remove the container. You could leave it with the container, even if there happens to be money in it. Now we're saying something else. Now we're saying you took the tefillin, you put the tefillin not into its container, you put the tefillin into a suitcase with money.
On Shabbos you did this?
So this is what I'm telling you. The Mechaber understood the Trumas Hadeshin that you did it on Shabbos. You were trying to figure out how to save your $1,000. So you said, I'll put the tefillin in the suitcase. Now I can take the suitcase out to a Chassid Shedim Urevis. Yeah.
If that's the case,
Yeah.
you shouldn't say it im. You should say yachol lahaniach tefillin ba'arnaki ma'lemar l'atzilu min atleika. You shouldn't have said im.
If you did it, you could save it.
If it was done,
So
that's another story.
you're pointing out a nuance, and we'll get into that. Let's get into it. We'll get into that nuance. I'm going down this path for a reason. You'll see. So the Mechaber understood. This is the way the Mechaber understood the Trumas Hadeshin. He understood the Trumas Hadeshin that this means you could do this whenever you want, if it happened to be there, or if the fire started and you did it to save the money. Then he brings down V'yeshvi sh'aymer dainu dafke k'shenichim shami erev Shabbos. That's a Mordechai. The Mordechai brings down. The Mordechai says this heter, and the Mordechai says that this is only true if you did it on erev Shabbos. Now, the Magen Avram, we're going to see in the Mishnah Berurah now. The Magen Avram is chaylik on the Mechaber, and the Magen Avram says that the Mechaber missed the boat. He didn't understand the Trumas Hadeshin, and he didn't understand the Mordechai. He says, I don't see a machlokes here between the Trumas Hadeshin and the Mordechai. He says, as far as I'm concerned, what all the Trumas Hadeshin meant when he said, Im iniach tefillin ba'aniki malimois, right? What? He said, nobody holds that you're allowed to do it after the fire started in order to make a trick to save the $1,000. The Trumas Hadeshin doesn't hold that way either. All he means is you're allowed to do it on Shabbos if you did it before the fire started. You don't know anything about a fire. Happens to be you took tefillin, you put it into a suitcase with money. Now a fire started, you can take it out. The Mordechai who says only if it was done on Erev Shabbos, what he means is, you want to make a trick and you want to go ahead and you're trying to pull shtick? No, that you can't do. But what you can do is, if somehow you're living in a house that you think there might be a fire, so on Erev Shabbos you want to set this up so that just in case you should be able to save your money, that you could do. He says, but I don't see a machlokes. Everybody agrees you can't do it after the fire started, and everybody agrees you can do it on Shabbos before the fire started. Now let's see it in the Mishnah Berurah.
Who's the second one?
The Mordechai. Yeah.
The Mordechai is worried, it's like a Zerah sort of like, he's worried that you're going to do it like a tefillah, you want to save the money, you're going to have the aroma, so that's why he asks us all of Shabbos.
No, but he doesn't. But
He wants you to do it Erev Shabbos.
yeah, no, but the Magen Avram says that he doesn't mean dafke Erev Shabbos. He means even on Shabbos before the fire started. When the Mordechai says Erev Shabbos, the Magen Avram says he only means if you're doing it to save the money, you have to have done it Erev Shabbos. It's a Magen Avram. You could argue in the Magen Avram. I can't argue in the Magen Avram.
Simple word.
Okay, says the Chavetz Chaim in Ois Cotton Memhei V'yesh B'Shayim Dainu Hine B'Taz Magen Avram Kasvu Deleka B'Zeh Plukta. The Magen Avram and the Taz both say they don't see a machlokes between the Trumas Hadeshin and the Mordechai. The Lekulei Alma also L'Chatchila L'Aniach Tefillin Eitzel Mois B'Shas Adleika Kedei L'Hatzel HaMois. Everybody agrees, even the Trumas Hadeshin, when he says Im iniach tefillin ba'arniki malimois, he doesn't mean that you're allowed to do it after the fire starts. Everybody asks to do it after the fire starts in order to save the money. Aval in hiniach b'Shabbos tefillin eitzel mois va'achakach nafla dleika. If you did it on Shabbos, but you did it before the fire started, and then a fire started, pshita de shari latzila l'kulayama. Everybody would agree that you're allowed to save that you're allowed to take out the suitcase with the money and the tefillin. V'ein tzarich l'nar amois, and you don't have to shake out the money, ayin sham. Ubebir agra hichriya to ha'ikar kamachaber. The Bir Agra says that the understanding of the Trumas Hadeshin and the Mordechai follows the Machaber, that there is a Machlokes. The Leder Rishayna Gam Lechatchila Mutter Lahaniach Tfilin Eitzel Moish B'Shas Adleika, that according to the Machaber's understanding of the Trumas Hadeshin, which is the way the Bir Agra says is correct, then the Trumas Hadeshin holds you're allowed to do this Lechatchila on Shabbos after the fire started, Ayin Sham. And in the Shar Tzion over here, in Mem Aleph, the Chavetz Chaim says, "Umash b'sham to mitzadeit kein lahalacha," that the Gra follows the Mechaber lahalacha, and he says that yes, you would be allowed to after the fire starts. You'd be allowed to take the tefillin, put it in the suitcase with the money as a method of saving the money. And the Mordechai says in Memvav, Kishanicham Shami Erev Shabbos, Hainu le'inyin she'yeh yachal lahatzel lechasa she'enim u'reves. The point of having it set up this way is that you should be able to save the money with the tefillin in the suitcase. That helps you to take it out to a chasa she'enim u'reves. Aval lahatzel l'rishus ha'yachid. If you're not taking it out to a chasa she'enim u'reves, if you're bringing it out to your backyard, mavur le'kamei b'sif yudzayin diyesh matirin afil al yidei kikar v'tinoik, that this you don't even have to come on to tefillin. If you're taking it out to your backyard and the problem is only the muktzah of the money, you could put a loaf of bread together with the money. You could put it with a baby. You could carry it out that way. And certainly, if we're talking about the neighboring houses, so according to the day of Rishona in Siv Beis, you'd be allowed to take out the money without any kunsen.
I give you a way out because the way people would do it is they would do something else instead. The Mishnah brings that down a number of times. If I wouldn't give you a head to phrase, you can find another way to do it.
You find a different way to do it. Well, we said that's the Sfar in Sif Beis. The Sfar in Sif Beis for being Matir Muktzah is because if not, they're going to do it b'mezid.
If he wears it, he can take it to the Shus HaRabim.
If he wears what? The tefillin, yeah. He puts them on.
The money you can't take.
No. Now, this is one of these funny, I always just chalk this up to Torah Shabbal Peh. You know, we say sometimes that when you look at a Gemara, the Gemara is written very funny, in a very strange way that seems just not to be understandable. We have to remember that Torah Shabbal Peh is still Torah Shabbal Peh. Even after we wrote it down and everything else, it's still Torah Shabbal Peh. Why over here, the way the Mechaber set this up, we're first going to come now in Sif Yud Zayin, this fact that you're allowed to save the Sifrei Kedusha to a Chotzer She'enim U'reves. It came into play already for these two Sifim that we just said. It came into play 3 times already that we're talking about a Chotzer She'enim U'reves, but the Mechaber hasn't mentioned it yet. Now the Mechaber in Yud Zayin is finally going to say it. First he says another halacha. Yesh matirim. There are those that are matir. This is Torah brings it down from Yerushalmi. And over here again, it seems that we're talking about the neighboring houses, not the house where the fire is. Yesh matirim. There are those that are matir. Lahatzel diskiya malaya mois, to save a sack full of money, al yidei kikar, oy tinoik, by putting it together with a loaf of bread or a baby, min adleika, oy min aganovim, v'hagazlanim. V'dafka l'rishus hayachid, this would only allow you to take it out to rishus hayachid, avaloy l'chasa she'enim u'reves. So again, the benefit of saving the money, agav the sifrei kedusha or the tefillin, is that you get to take it to a chasa she'enim u'reves. If it's agav a kikar or agav a tinoik, you're only getting it to right, you only get it to rishus hayachid, not to a chasa she'enim u'reves. Now, these words in the parentheses are stuck in here by the Berurah, also by the Taz. They have to be here, otherwise it doesn't make sense. The Mechaber continues, Matzilin asvarim, when we talk about saving Sifrei Kedusha, you're allowed to save Sifrei Kedusha, afilu l'chasa she'enim u'reves, even to a chasa she'enim u'reves, u'lamavoi, or to a mavoi, which is the alleyway that leads from Rishus HaRabim to several chatzerim. Pirish, the alleyway that serves the chatzeros, shaloi nishtatfu boi. So this heter of saving Sifrei Kedusha allows you to take the Sifrei Kedusha to a chassid she'enim u'reves or to a mavli that doesn't have a sheet of mavuais, which in both cases there would be an Isser of Haitzad Rabbanon. Ubelvad sheyiu by shalosh bechitzais v'lechi. In the case of the mavli, again, a mavli is an alleyway. If we're talking about a mavli she'enoi mefulish, we're talking about a mavli that's not opened. So it's an alleyway that's open on the front end, it's closed on the back end, and it has gateways on the sides that go to chatzerim. If this mavli has 3 mechitzais, so it has on 3 sides it has walls, and on the open side it has a lechi, then you're allowed to take Sifrei Kedusha to this mavli, even if it doesn't have a sheet of mavuos. If, on the other hand, it doesn't have a lechi, then with the Chavetz Chaim is going to say, then it's nida and karmelis, then it has a din of a karmelis. Now you'll ask me, what's the difference between a karmelis and a chassid she'eino mu'ureves? They're both an isser of Eitzad Rabbanan, but we see many, many times that a karmelis is treated more chomer than a chassid she'eino mu'ureves because it's more similar to Rishus HaRabim. Says the Chavetz Chaim in Ois Cotton Mem Zayin, Yesh Matirim, V'hainu sheyachal litain afilu lechatchila b'Shabbos latzol al yodam. Even lechatchila, according to this opinion, you could take the kikar and put it together with the money to save the money. Afilu amois chashav me'achefet sheminiach etzlai. This would be true even if you have $1,000 in a roll. So you're just taking a roll, a piece of bread, and you're putting it together with $1,000. You would think that the roll is bottled to the $1,000. It's not in this case. Even though we never find this heter, that by sticking something that's not muktzah together with money, suddenly you're allowed to handle it. The only place we find this is when you have to handle a corpse on Shabbos. Then we find the concept of using a tinoik or a kikar. Over here, because of the hefsid meruba by a fire, they were matter this. And again, Chavetz Chaim is sending us back to Sif Beis, where we have the Dei Rishona, who holds that you don't have to come on to any of this, that you could even move the money without any of this. And again, we're talking about the neighboring houses. Shalosh mechitzas v'lechi, avo b'lo lechi. If there's no lechi on the open side of the mavli, have it like a karmelis. It is a din of a karmelis. V'lo hutar afilu b'shvil svarim, and then you would not be allowed to handle the money, even if you were handling it together with svarim. Zokta b'chaber vayter and Sif Yud Ches. Kasvu mishum goyin. They bring down from one of the goyinim, shemutar loimer la'ena Yehudi, that you're allowed to do amir la'akum, lahatzel svarim and adleika, to save Sifrei Kedusha from a fire. Afilu derech Rishus HaRabim, even if the guy is going to take the svarim through a real Rishus HaRabim daraisa. So one of the goyinim are saying that you could be mater a shvus. It's not a shvus to shvus. It's the Rabbanan. You're asking a guy to do a daraisa, and to save the Sifrei Kedusha, this goyin was mater this. Says the Chavetz Chaim is cotton memtes shamutar loymar the shvus the amira la'ena Yehuda shari, because this goyin was going to be mater the Rabbanan of asking a guy to do a daraisa mepnei bezayin kisvei hakodesh, to prevent the bezayin that would happen to the kisvei hakodesh if they were burnt. V'af gemara isu sha'arei svarim have a b'chlal zeh. We're not only talking about a Sefer Torah or Tefillin, we're talking about any Sifrei Kedusha, even a Gemara or a Mishnah Berurah or anything else, you could do this. It's interesting to me that the Chavetz Chaim parsed his words in an interesting way. He wrote, the shvus da'amira la'ena Yehuda shari. The shvus, the Rabbanan of amira la'akum. The point over here, this is brought down. Let me remember, one second. It's a Shibboleth Leket, but it's brought down. I forgot where. I saw it this morning. The words of the Shibboleth Leket are the reason this is mutter is because it's a shvus she'ein by Maisa Yisrael. It's a shvus where a yid is not doing a Maisa. And that's why the Goyin was materit. Because even though it's a shvus, but there's no Maisa of a yid. And it's interesting to me, I'm not sure why the Mishnah Berurah left those words out. Instead he wrote the shvus da'amir le'ena Yehudi. But he didn't make the point that it's a shvus she'ein by Maisa. I don't know why.
Every time you tell a goy you have no mind.
I know. Chinami.
So what is he saying?
No, just the Shibboleth Leket is saying why Was this guy willing to be matir amira? Right? There are a lot of drabanas that were not matir because what? It doesn't say. I don't know. Because you're asking to do a deraisa.
Most places we didn't live, even if there's no area, not a shus.
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about our Rishus Harabim will be no Rishus Harabim deraisa. But over here, over here, it's when the Mechaber writes afilu derech Rishus Harabim, he means a real Rishus Harabim. But that's clearly what he means. Clearly, he means a real Rishus Harabim.
They didn't have it.
They said,
Very rarely.
but the Mechaber is telling you that if you did, it would be mutter. Otherwise, he would say so. He would say so if he didn't mean a real Rishus Harabim. But you see that's what he meant. Clearly, that's what he meant. Just as an aside, I think it's worth mentioning. I heard from my uncle, my father's brother, who spent the latter years of the war together with the Klausenberger Rebbe. He was with him in the camps. They sent the Klausenberger Rebbe and a bunch of other Yidden on a work detail to the ruins of the Warsaw Ghetto to comb through the ruins of the ghetto and look for valuables. So my uncle told me that the one time that he saw the Klausenberger Rebbe lose it during the war was they were going through the rubble, and suddenly the Rebbe shrieked. He gave a shriek and passed out. And they ran over to him to see what was going on, and he was holding in his hand, he found a torn urea of a Sefer Torah. So all the horrors that he saw somehow didn't have that effect on him. But when he saw the torn urea of a Sefer Torah, he just gave a geschrei and he passed out. So you talk about the bezayin of Sefer Torah when they get burnt. Yeah. Okay. Mechaber says in Chaf. No, I'm sorry. Sif Yotes. Kol ma shemuter lahatzel mipnei adleika. Anything that you're allowed, that we're saying you're allowed to save from a fire, where we talk about Sifrei Kedusha, muter lahatzel mimayim umishar dvarim hamabdim. Don't think that for some reason this refers only to a fire. It refers to anything else that can damage them as well. Zok the Sif Chaf. Hal gilyonim, the margins, shalamayla v'shalamata, that are above the writing and are beneath the writing, v'shebeid parsha leparsha, or the spaces that are between one parsha and another parsha in a Sefer Torah, v'shebein daf ledaf, or between the amudim, v'shebetchilas ha-sefer, v'shebeseif ha-sefer, and the blank areas that are before a sefer and after a sefer, ein matzilin oisam, those you are not allowed to save. Now, what is this talking about? So says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Katan Chaf, ha-gilyonim shenechtechu min ha-sefer. If somehow you would have the area of the margin was cut off of a sefer, oy shenimchak ha-sefer, or you have, let's say, a Sefer Torah where it was erased, it was worn out, and you don't have the 85 oisiyos of whole words left in the Sefer that we said gives a Sefer Torah, the Kedusha Sefer Torah. The Shuv Ozolei Kedusha Shal HaKlaf Shetachtov. So now the Klaf no longer has Kedusha Sefer Torah. The Gam Shal HaGilyonim Shesvivav. So once the Kedusha goes off the rest of the Sefer Torah, the Kedusha goes off the Gilyonim as well. Or if the Gilyonim somehow got cut off, so they're separated from the rest of the Sefer, so then also the Gilyonim have no Kedusha left, and you wouldn't be matzal them from a fire. Now, interesting, they point out that the words of the Mechaber are very much pedafka, they're very specific. He tells you exactly which areas we're talking about. We're talking about above, beneath, between, beginning, end. We're not talking about blank space between lines. We're not talking about blank space between letters or between words. The blank spaces that are in the Mokam Aksav, those retain their kedusha, because that's the makom aksav, and it's necessary for the ksav. If you wouldn't have a blank space between two words, it wouldn't make two words. If you wouldn't have blank space between two letters, right, so then they would be touching each other, it would be puzzle. So those areas are treated differently. But the blank areas on top and on bottom and on the sides, those only have kedusha once the rest of the sefer still retains kedusha. The cause of Maharam B'tshuva, Shayatakana B'cherim, that this was one of the Cherim D'Rabbeinu Gershims. Shaloi L'katzeis Gilyoin Sefer, Afilu K'tei Lichtoi V'lov. You're not allowed to cut off the margin area of a Sefer Torah, even if you're using it to write a Davar Shebekdusha. Over Masas Binyamin Simin Kaf Herech Ala Gilyoinim Shal HaSvarim. The margins of our Svarim, not a Sefer Torah. The margins of printed Svarim. Shahakoishrin HaSvarim Choitchen Oisan Umashlichen. When they would print the galleys, and the galleys are bigger than the final product. So before they bind it, they would cut off blank space, and that stuff would be garbage. They would throw it away. And he was very bothered by this, because l'chayra, if it was printed together with the sefer, it should have a certain level of kedusha. But he says, V'atam, the reason why they could throw it out is, Kevin de nagu kach, since that's the way it's done, right? That's the way svarim are printed and the way they're made. Havalei kilu hisnu aleim mitchila. It's as if there was a t'nai mikodim, that this part should not have the kedusha of a sefer. Ayin Siman Kuf Nun Daled Sif Ches, where over there the Mechaber talks about when you have a shul and you're making a bima, you're making an aron kodesh. So he says we're noig to be nene from a bima. Everybody goes over to the bima and leans on the bima. You're not allowed to be nene from a bima. The bima is for a sefer Torah. Yeah? But you see all the time people go over and then nene from a bima. Really? Interesting. What's pshat? Pshat is that there's a t'nai. There's a t'nai mikaidim. He says the things that we're noyig, that we get hana from, it's like there's a t'nai mikaidim. It doesn't apply to everything. Vim kain ein matzilin oisan. What he says is, over there, the Mishnah Berurah says that it depends if it's something that's efsher, that's considered efsher not to do it that way, that it's not an automatic t'nai. There has to be a verbal t'nai made. Uba agudim ha-masech the seifrim parek hey. Hamachatek b'svarim, somebody who cuts svarim, b'chadoshim mutter. When it's a new sefer, then what you cut off is mutter b'hana. B'yeshonim aser. If it's an old sefer, so you have a 10-year-old Gemara, and now you want to go bind it, and somehow in order to bind it, you have to cut off a piece. Then you can't go ahead and be nene from that and treat it like a davar that doesn't have kedusha, you want to throw it out. No, then it would need gniza. Vatam, what's the reason for this distinction? The bichadoshim, when it's a new sefer that you just made, kihisnu b'tkila dami, then you're going through the manufacturing process and it never got kedusha. Because this is the manufacturing process. This is how you do it. You cut it off in order to make the sefer. But if it's old, if it's an old sefer, so what do you mean? It was like this for 10 years. For 10 years it was part of the sefer. You can't now turn around and say, no, it was never part of the sefer. V'hazmana gam ken lav milsihi, and we don't worry about hazmana, that the fact that it was made together with it, someone gives a kedusha. Avo b'shekfar lomdu mehem. But once you use the sefer, afal gilyonim niskachu b'kedushas hasvar. Zok the Mechaber Sif Chafalef. Ha'apikursim. Apikursim, heretics. The etymology of the word apikuris is interesting. There's different opinions. Some can say it comes from the word hefker, because either he treats himself like hefker, he's mafker himself, he doesn't care about his neshama, or he's mafker the Torah. So apikuris comes from hefker. There's another opinion that Apikuris was actually the name of a Greek philosopher. Epicurean. Right, Epicurean. That's right. And he was Zeicha that we named heresy after him. So Apikurim, Tahainu ha'adukim ba'avodas kechavim. Those who they have dveikus, they're connected nebuch to avodas kechavim, to idol worship. Not idols necessarily, but foreign things. V'chein mumrim la'avodas kechavim, and also those who are considered a mummer to avodas kechavim. They're not necessarily oduk to avodas kechavim, but shekasu lahem kisvei hakodesh, and they write sifrei kedusha. Ein matzilim oisam, you would not be allowed to save them from a fire on Shabbos. Vaf b'chayil, and even during the week. Sarfan, you burn them, im ha'askari shebehen, together with the askaris. If they have Shem Shemayim, you would burn them together with the Shemos. Zakti Mishnah Berurah shekasvu, afilu ksav ashuris ala klafu b'dyoy. You have an Apikoros who wrote a Sefer Torah, and he wrote it in Ashuris with Yoy, and he did it kehilchasa and everything else. It's possible, and you would burn it together with the Askaros. Imha Askaros, why? Shekevet shehem adukim, since they're so attached to Avodah Zarah, bevadai kasvu aisan l'shem avodas gilulim. When they wrote the shame, Yud Kei Vav Kei, they meant Avodah Zarah. In other words, to them, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is not the Shem Hashem, it's the name of a deity. It's God. And it's whatever they identify as God. So it doesn't have Kedusha. Umikan Yesh Lihi Zahir. Now the Chavetz Chaim, this must be something that was popular in his day. Umikan Yesh Lihi Zahir. From here you see that you have to be careful. Al Oisan Matba'is Shel Zahav V'Kesef. On those plates of gold and silver. Shetavu Oisan Ha'adukim L'Shem Avadis Gilulim. That were made by people who are attached to Avodah Zarah. Sha'asurim L'Tloisam Ala Sefer Torah. You're not allowed to hang them on a Sefer Torah because it's a davar mos. V'gam ein lahachzik oisam b'rishusai, and you're not allowed to hold on to it. Eliyatiche miyad, you should melt it down right away. Kedai shelo yeh shum zikaron l'maaseim, so there should be no zikron, no remembrance to the work of Avodah Zarah that they do. V'harav Rav Yehuda Miller, I don't know who this is. Nestapik imutar lahatichon, if you're allowed to melt them. Shema einam minam lavayis gilulim. Maybe the person who did it wasn't necessarily so attached to Avodah Zarah, and maybe there is some kedusha. Ubechuvas Chavas Yaris Siman Tezayin Mater lahatich hamatbois shal shem ben arba. These plates that have on them Yud Kei Vav Kei shenasim b'medinais Sweden. Sweden, I guess, probably. It didn't catch me. This morning I was looking at it. Sweden. I was saying, what is it? And it just struck me, Sweden. Mitam kinitpu lahitziam, because they were made to be given out. V'havalei kilu nichtavu beferish l'shem chayil. V'chein mashma b'pribagadam ayim cham. And now, in a similar vein, the Chavetz Chaim says, Oid kasav, mashenoigin be'ezek kehilois. This meaning that they have in certain congregations. Kishemevarchin chayla, when they make a mishaberach for a sick person. The goyven mois bikalechad, and to make the mishaberach, they collect money from the people. Umanichen hakli im amois l'toich aron hakodesh, and they put the money from the mishaberach, they lock it up in the aron kodesh. Lo yafa oisin. So he says over there, the Taz, Prima Gadim from the Taz, Chen Mashu Prima Gadim Ayin Sham Oid Kasav Taz. Okay, that it's not right to put it in there, and the lashon over there is because these coins, the money, it's like we have on it in God we trust, right? So he said these monies had a shame tumah on them. So what are you doing putting it in Ner Kodesh? Doesn't belong in Ner Kodesh. Now the Chavetz Chaim says, anyway, you have a problem that you don't belong keeping money in the Aron Kodesh. Now I know that in Yagud and Edison, I remember when they made a new Aron Kodesh, they made it al Tanai that they should be allowed to put the stuck of money in there because it's a safe. And it was the only safe that they had, and we had a big problem. We had homeless people coming in and robbing the pushkas. We had one Nebuch, we had a homeless person who came in 3 times, stole the safe. There was a safe in the bima. He stole the safe, but the other thing that was in the safe was the extra tefillin, in case somebody gave the shulin to the tefillin. So he came and he returned the tefillin. So he says, you shouldn't keep it in the Aron, but if you make it tonight, you're allowed to keep it in the Aron. Okay.